Hello, everybody. Welcome to my blurred opinion. Welcome to episode 186. I hope you're all doing well. This is just another great interview, and I just like to get right into it. I don't really explain these. I don't even know why I do them. I should just, I guess, input the music and then just jump right into the interview. But I don't know. I've been doing it this way for so long that I'm just like, just keep doing it. Maybe someday I'll just say, screw this whole intro thing, and I'll just jump right into it. Now I'm rambling. So let's get into it. Again, thank you all for being here with me. I heard someone do this once, and it does make a lot of sense. Like, if you would like to follow me and get to know more about me, I am a very good follow on TikTok and Instagram. It is at my blurred opinion. So please follow me. If you reach out, I will talk to you. And again, please share, comment, subscribe, and like, and it'll be very much appreciated. So thank you all, and let's go. Okay, everyone, we are here. We are back. Again, I always tell everybody where I find people. This one, obviously, is Podmatch once again. And good thing is, like, a lot of times when I do these, I don't usually have, I have, background information on them based on their profiles. But this woman I actually got to talk to for actually a few hours. We kind of had to cut each other off because we just kept going. And it was very fun, entertaining. And it's always nice to meet a new friend because, as I've said early on in the show, that I wanted to, early on in the existence of this show, is that I wanted to kind of, create a place where we could become friendly and support each other and so on. And, you never know how it's going to turn out. You don't know if, you're actually going to make friends or, you might just be promoting someone's book and their story and that's it. And that has happened. But I'd say more than not, I've made some good friends out of it. And it seems like here's another one. So, and she has a really traumatic story. There's a lot there that's really sad and, really frustrating for someone to have to go through, especially someone now I'm starting to like and care about. It sucks that she has to endure this, but as I've said also many times, that it's always great to these people out here who are taking their pain and turning it into something positive. So here we go again. You want to share your name and obviously talk a little bit about yourself, and obviously welcome.
Well, thank you, TJ. It's a joy to be here. Yes, I'm Laura Mangum Broom, and I'm a resilience coach. And I have a message of hope that I like to share with your audience and with others, to know that you can transform hardship to hope and flourish in life. And I have, through my own hardships, I have discovered what I call kind of a simple 3-step action plan to transform pain into purpose and thrive in life. And I'm very honored to be here to share this information with your audience.
Of course, yeah. And that's, as her and I talked about a lot the other day, and, we talked a lot about, because it's easy to talk about, pain or purpose for your pain, but you have to kind of, a lot of people can say that, but you actually have to understand how pain works and how it really feels. And obviously you've been on the other end of it, where it really can change you one way or another unless you figure out who you are and you make some real adjustments. You've actually gone through some real challenges in your life.
Yes. The most recent was 3 years ago when COVID shut everything down, and I had a successful heart transplant. But then a month later, I found out my husband was leaving me for another woman, and that was really devastating. We had been married almost 30 years and had a grown son, and my other son had died by suicide a few years prior to that. So it was a lot of tragedy I was experiencing all at once. and so I had a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions that I had to work through.
Yeah, and especially losing a child. I mean, hell, I mean, like I told you, I saw a lot of things what my mom went through, and then I told you my friend who died. I know her parents, and I saw what they went through by losing her, and
Hmm.
it's it's obviously there's that whole antic of you never want to bury your own child, but it's
Right.
it's just as hard just to watch them go through the traumatic pain and everything. And obviously for you, you just lost them suddenly, and it's I don't know. There's really no words to kind of explain. Even when you lose somebody who's important to you, but as I'm
Hmm.
not a parent. I'm sure that. I mean, I know you haven't. Oh, I guess you should kind of talk a little bit about him and obviously like the background where he's from and all that because obviously has a unique
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. We adopted Gregory when he was 10 in 2006 from St. Petersburg, Russia. And he was 3 months older than our other son. And they became really close. And we had Gregory for 10 years before he committed suicide. And it was really wonderful to see him progress from becoming a part of our family. He had to learn American culture and learn how to speak English and um, you know um, integrate into a family. And it was like he was the missing piece to our family. We just felt so complete with him, and he was a wonderful boy. He loved computers, and so when he died, it was a shock. I was in the hospital getting ready for some breast cancer surgery, and so it was again another devastating um, experience. But I decided I had to, because of my Christian faith, I decided I had two choices. I could let this these events make me bitter, or it can make me better. And I had to definitely go through my grief stages and process my emotions. And once I got to the acceptance stage, I decided I wanted to honor his memory, and because he was a Eagle Scout with the Boy Scouts, and he and both my sons were, and they both were had entered the Army National Guard when they turned 16. Their My husband at the time was also in the Army reserves, and so he really was a good kid. There was just something that he was going through um, towards the end that we didn't know too much about. And um, so as a result of that, I figured one way I could honor his memory was becoming a mentor with foster youth, an organization here in San Antonio. They help foster youth transition out of the uh, foster care system and um, move out on their own. And so, just like when we adopted Gregory, a lot of the as kids get older, the chances of them becoming adopted is very, very slim, even in the foster care system. And so those kids need to be felt loved and cared for. And so I've been a mentor with the foster youth for about 4 years now.
That's
And
awesome.
so
Yeah.
that's how I honor my son's memory is helping others.
Yeah, I think however you do it, it's whatever's good for you because you're the one that has to still live with it, and there's still that missing piece in your life that you can never fill, and so you have to live with it however you can, and that's the thing. Everyone has their own way of doing it. Everyone has their own unique method. So and one of the things you were talking about, and we talked about before, is you being religious, and I think one thing that I've never said out loud to myself or anything. Not that I was hiding it, but I think
Mhm.
sometimes religious people, and again, there are obviously nutty people that are just way too into it, and they're a little bit cuckoo. But there are people who just
Sure.
genuinely believe in God, and it gets them through the day, and it gets them through all their problems. And sometimes anybody who isn't like fully into faith, we look at them or they look at them like, oh, because you can go through something like losing your son, and obviously you cried and you went through your pain and so on, but you
Sure.
could actually say the things that you're saying, like, well, I had to either let this take me, or I had to just continue to move on and keep my faith and all that. And I think sometimes some people will just say, well, yeah, I have God, so I'm good with it. And no matter how bad or traumatic it is, it still is some form of strength, regardless of where you got it from or not. And I think sometimes people who are, who deal with their issues differently and maybe don't have a calling or have someone that they believe in, they tend to look at you like, well, what the hell's wrong with you? What do you mean? Your son just died, or you're fighting breast cancer, you're fighting this, you're fighting like, why would God give you this in the first place? And how are you like? And instead of just kind of recognizing and appreciate your resilience and the fact that you're still somehow able to smile and pull yourself out of bed, sometimes I think some people focus on the negative of religion, or just
Mhm.
the love for God.
Mhm.
And it's something I don't think it's talked about enough, because I think there are, like, again, there's some people that are a little cuckoo with it, and they take it too far, and then everyone kind of resents them. So then anybody who actually pulls out the God card, it's like, no, God got me through this. It's like, oh yeah, okay, that sure, just like that, and just like God got all these people through all these other crazy things. And it's like, no, sometimes it really is something that's worth having, and having faith and love for God. It's just like I said, I don't think people get commended enough for kind of sticking with it, because you and I talked about it the other day about how easy it is, and how you kind of looked at it from my perspective, or someone in my shoes who is going through the shit and losing my sight. It's easy for me to just go like, God, why would you do this to me? Why would you curse me? Instead of looking at
Right.
the way you looked at it, and it's like, okay, I'm giving you challenges that you can handle, regardless if you can see it or not, no pun intended. um,
Mhm.
you'll see it later. And like I said, I don't think people in your shoes get commended enough for something like that, because it's not something that really gets discussed all that much.
Well, thank you. I'll tell you, it hasn't always been this way, but because of the hardships I've gone through in my life, I mean, there was a time that I almost gave up on my faith because I was angry at God, and that was when my mother, or our mother, passed away. I was in just early 30s, and it was just she died of a massive heart attack, completely unexpected, and I was angry at God, and I was like, how can you take her away from us, and what are we going to do? And I was like, you're going to have to prove to me that you can bring good out of this situation, because just prior to that happening, the pastor at our church had given a sermon on God can bring good out of everything, even death. And I just remember telling them, you're going to have to prove to me you can, because right now I'm angry. I'm very angry. And he did. He got me reading the Bible, and everybody's got their opinion on religion, and who they um, choose, higher power, and I honestly feel, I mean, I find comfort in knowing that there's somebody bigger than me that is in control, because I have limited resources, and God has not let me down. Um, I can honestly say that He has not let me down along the way, and but it's taken a lot of hardship for me to trust in Him. That I know if I'm going to go through a hardship, He is going to help me get through it, and I have to look for that good, and as I say, hunt the good stuff, and the best way to do that is by practicing gratitude. And we talked about that sometimes you look at the situation, and the only good thing you can say is that, well, thank goodness it's not worse. But then when you start thinking how it could be worse, that's where you're going to find the gratitude. Is you know, it takes some practice, but you can do that. And once you start finding things to be grateful for, then the joy follows after that. And it doesn't. It's not easy. It's something I had to practice because, like I said, 3 years ago I was at my lowest, and um, looking back now and to see how far I've come, I can see the goodness that God brought out of that, and in finding new opportunities and focusing on what I can do instead of what I can't do. And again, I think that like, you can find gratitude just in that too.
Yeah.
My life has completely changed from 3 years ago, but I I have a second chance at life with a new heart. So it was my choice. What am I going to do with this second chance in my life?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and again, it's really, you really don't know what's going to happen. Like after someone dies, especially when there's such a huge, focal point in your life, you can't really replace that. You can try
Mm-mm.
find pieces, like people that give you certain aspects and little pieces of their character, and maybe it'll help. Obviously, it does help you it helps to surround you with good individuals that will brighten up your day, make you laugh, make you feel comfortable. But you can't really, no matter what someone is, they could look just like them, they could have similar sense of humor, whatever, but they really don't. They just there's just something, like I've always said, like my one cat who died. I'll never probably love anything more than I loved her because she got me through so many times, so many bad
Mm-hmm.
times. Now the cat that I have
Yeah.
now is actually more loving, but it's because she got me through some times, and when I needed something to hug, she was there. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like I said, my cat that I have now, who, by the way, the podcast has officially started because he's now climbed up next to me and he knows it's podcast time. Right, Mr. Bullet? Yes, he's showing me his belly. But I mean, I love him dearly, and I'm petting him as we speak. But you know, there's just something about her, even though she was kind of more of a bitch at times. It was like, oh, but she got me through life, and I can never repay
Yeah.
that. And she was everything to me. And again, again, I'm an animal person, but there are people, like I said, I lost my
Yeah.
friend Lori, and I can't replace her. I know a lot of people who I might even love on the same level as her, but they don't. There's just
Mm-hmm.
certain parts. There's certain joy and certain things she brought me that no one else can bring me because it's just she was
Right.
her own person. But
Yeah.
again, at the same time, you still have to go on, and you still can't dwell on, oh my God, I'll never find someone who brings me this type of joy, or I'll never find someone who fill his spot. Yeah, you just got to leave that for what it is. And sometimes I don't know, maybe we just have to realize everything kind of has a time limit to it, including
Yes.
life. And sometimes we realize like there's certain interactions with people that we kind of dwell on. We go back in time in our head and we go, man, I miss like our teacher, Mr. So and so. He was just so
Yeah.
funny, and it's just like, well, I moved away. I don't know his number. I'll probably never see him again. Never talk to him. But it's like, hey, I did have him for 3 years. Like he was a great guy, and it's just you just gotta. And they're just friends like that. There are relationships. I mean, as long as it didn't,
Yeah.
there are relationships that ended, on a turmoil type of basis that was just awful. But there was maybe a month or two where you just were happy and smiling. It's like, man, those 2 months were one of the happiest times of my life. Just
Yes.
so something that's this horrifying, of losing a child, regardless of how bad it is. Sometimes you just gotta have to sit back and go, like, I did have this in so many years with him. I did have, he did bring me this, and there, you get to carry
Mm-hmm.
some of him with you every day. Now, when you go to do these things where you're impacting foster kids and all that.
Well, and you bring up a good point. I'm sure everybody can relate to this. Everybody has at least one friend or several friends that you can talk to, and you get busy, and a year goes by, or months go by, a year go by, or even years go by, and you get back in touch with each other, and you just kind of pick up where you left off. They've been busy too, and you just you talk and you enjoy each other. Maybe you see each other, and then time goes where they kind of just come in and out,
Yeah.
of your life. And and that's kind of, to me, that's kind of how life is. You're going to find friends who, um, I have a friend that we lost touch for 10 years, and just because life got busy and different things were going on, and we got back in touch with each other, and it's like, my gosh, we didn't lose a day. We just picked up where we left off, and it's been wonderful, and nobody took offense to it, and life is kind of that way. We people come, and situations come and go in our lives, and we have to appreciate it, while we have it. And in my old age, I'm 61 now, and I laugh because, like, I wish I had it could have this type of outlook and attitude when I was younger, because I focused on, things that weren't as important, and I didn't adapt to change well when I was younger. And now, after going through so much change, loss, um, grief, and being able to find the positive in situations and find the good, even find the humor, um, in bad situations over time. Um, it's helped me to rediscover joy in my life, and and it's hard, but it's a choice. And that's one thing that I always like to tell people is, you always have choices. You might not like them at the time, but fortunately, three things that are always constant in our life is death, taxes, and change. And we just have to be flexible with the change and look at it as it can be an opportunity. And instead of, be, if we can adapt to change, and but that's a choice we have to make. We can't force anybody. We can only worry about ourselves when it comes to making those choices. And
Yeah.
and that's something that I learned how to do over the last couple of years, is focus on what's in my control to change, to keep moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, change is so hard, so scary, especially when
It
your
is.
constant or your norm is the same for so long. I think everyone has this
Yes.
envision of, especially like the white picket fence. Like everyone's just at home and they're
Mhm.
they're playing cards and eating pizza and just
Mhm.
enjoying each other, and they have this thing that they do, and but all that does
Oh
is just kind
yeah.
of keep you stuck in the past, because that's not going to last for long, because one of these people is going to move away, somebody's going to die, somebody's going to change one way or another. I think that's one of the things that gets hard for parents, where it's like their kid, they love you, they need you to survive when they're a baby, and then when they're younger, like they start to
Mhm.
grow into like around 8, 10, they're bratty, but they still love you unconditionally. They're everything. But then when puberty hits and they become a teenager, whether a boy or a girl, all of a sudden now
Mhm.
all they
Oh
want to
yeah.
do is be. I mean, celebrities even talk about it, how no matter how famous they can be, they're not cool. Like Obama's talked about how his kids like don't give a shit about him, but it's like, oh my God, look at Taylor Swift. You took me to a Taylor Swift concert. Now that's cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, she's cool. Like, oh my God. And it's like, no, like he's Obama. Like, she would actually probably bow down to him, like in a
Yeah.
way where it's like, oh my God, you're the former president. Like,
I know.
you're just, but it's like, no, but she sings. Like, she's much cooler. And that's the thing. So like, so you kind of have to, remember the good times. Obviously, they still love you, and you still got to be a good parent. Actually,
Yeah.
probably parenting is even harder at that point. That's when you really kind of have to lock down and really kind of have to, adjust and become a much stronger, individual as a parent, because that's when they need you the most, really, because that's when life starts to hit them, and that's when sex and drugs and all these things start to come into their life, where it's like you got to kind of guide them in the
Right.
right thing. But sometimes parents dwell so much on, oh my God, like, we used to be best friends and we used to go to the mall and shop together, and now all she wants to do is hang out with her friends and she wants nothing to do with me. And it's like, that's just life, man. I mean, you look at animals, like, look, dogs and cats just like we just take their puppies and kittens and they just like, oh, okay, see you later,
Yeah.
and I'm on to the next, and all of a sudden they're just in someone else's house, and they're not even like a couple weeks later they don't even think about their parents. It's like you just kidnapped me,
Yeah.
but I don't give a shit. Now I'm just with you. I love you. Oh my god, what? I had a mom. Oh my god. So it's like when you look at rest of nature, they do it all the time. There's animals like pandas. Pandas are horrible mothers. All they do, they'll have like 3 4 cubs, and then they get rid of the other ones and only nurture one, whatever one they deem to be the strongest. They
Oh,
basic
wow. I
and they
didn't
just
know that.
yeah, and the others they just get rid of. They just say, see ya, take your chances out in the wild. And then the one that they do keep,
Oh,
they like abuse it. They beat the hell out of it until obviously they grow up and they move out on their own. But they're very rough with it. And they're just, and it's like nature's not like we try to pretty it up by we try to beautify it by looking, oh my god, the majestic lion, and it's like, yeah, it's not majestic when it's ripping a zebra's throat open, and so
yeah,
we
I
and
know.
we try to sugarcoat life like that, like, oh, but it's like, no, your kids eventually grow out of you, and it doesn't mean they don't love you. And obviously, they kind of come around, especially if like they're sons and they're mama's boys and whatever. They come around and they love their parents. And the older they get, especially when they have kids or they find a woman. But when they're like 16
Hmm.
and they're just now getting laid, like their mom and dad don't mean anything to them because all they care about is sex. And it's just the truth. I've been there. Like I love
Yeah.
my mom. I love my
Yeah.
grandma. But weirdly enough, before I let you go again, like I've
Hmm.
been having this conversation with my grandma lately because I spend time with this one girl, and it's like my grandma was like shocked. She's like, because I was like, I'm having this girl over, and she's like, and my mom was here for my birthday at the same time. She's like, where's she gonna sleep? I'm like, in my bed, and she goes, what? I'm like, grandma, I lost my virginity when I was 16. What? I'm 35 now. I'm still having to like talk to you about this. I have to like still have to hide the fact that I like women. Like, so yeah. My grandma, she's 91, so way different time. But it's like it's
Yeah.
they have sometimes your parents and your grandparents, they have these images of you, and then they kind of forget where they came from. Like it's
Right.
that's really why like it's so important to have a mom and a dad in the kid's life, because though I think a son is probably more important, or a father is more important to the son as a mom is more important to the daughter, they'd still need both of them because a dad knows what guys are
Right.
like. He can be protective and let them know. And there's just certain aspects that a mom brings to a son that a dad doesn't. It's just a more emotional, more sensitive approach in most cases, obviously. But yeah, I mean, and again, kind of going back,
Yeah.
wrapping it up here, kind of going back to the original point, is just like, yeah, sometimes you just got to realize like there's everything has a time frame on it and a timetable, and you just kind of have to go, okay, these were great times. That doesn't mean we can't have other great times. It's just different,
Right.
and we sometimes get lost and we're not as excited about difference, but there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. And that's so true because different can be good,
Yeah,
you know. But see that's how we just have to we have to change our perspective of what change is. Change can be different, but change can be good.
yeah,
And if we look for those opportunities, and like you were saying, like my son and I are very close. He just got married this past summer, and I love his wife. We're very close, and just recently found out that they're going to have the first grandchild on my side of the family, and I am so excited. And part of me goes, oh, but gosh, look at what's going on in the world, and they're bringing a baby into this world. But then the other side of me goes, but there's a reason for everything, and this child's going to have a purpose in life, and we need to make sure that you know that I feel like my purpose is to help teach this baby how to be resilient. And
sure,
life is always going to be, we're always going to have challenges in life. It's never going to be easy. Sometimes it might be, but we get used to the easy times, and then an obstacle comes up or a challenge comes up, and we're kind of hit blindsided, and it's like, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting this. And if we can look at those as, this isn't what I expected, but there's going to be an opportunity in here somewhere. I just have to find it. And I have to look for the good thing that's going to come out of this. Just one. I don't need to look for a lot of them, but at least one. Because if you can find one, you most likely will find another thing that's good out of the situation. And sometimes it takes us on to paths we would have never had the courage to take on our own. And like in my case, um, uh, I'm living a completely different life than I ever imagined, but I like it. It's fun. It's exciting. It's gotten me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Not a whole way out, but it is. But like you, I'm meeting new people online, and now I can say I've got a friend in Pennsylvania, and I have a friend in New Zealand, and a friend in Paris, and all over the United States that I would have never met if my life had stayed the same,
Sure.
and I think that's a wonderful, I hope other people get to, I don't want them to experience bad things happening to them, but I want them to experience getting out of their comfort zone and experiencing life. Because I used to, prior to 3 years ago, I was at the point where I was just existing. I remember waking up one morning and going, "Is this as good as it's going to get?" And then my life was completely turned upside down.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I am living a wonderful life right now. It's completely different than what I expected. And but I'm enjoying life. I'm meeting new people, and I'm having new experiences. And I just wish and pray that people can find the joy in their life, practice gratitude, look at change as something new and exciting, and your life will never be the same. It'll be a wonderful adventure.
Well, I think that's why we have so many people who are so close-minded and racist and all these different things is because no one really they stay within their circles and they don't. Man, a lot of these
Yes.
people, like I live in somewhat of a small town, about 30,000 people, and there's a lot. And I lived in Philadelphia for 20 some years, and there's nothing but different cultures everywhere. And obviously,
Right.
it's also bled in with New Jersey and New York. So there's like this metropolis of all these different types of cultures and so on, and it's great. And then when I come here, which I was born here, but I come back here,
Hmm.
and yeah, there are black people here, there are some gay people, some Hispanic people, so on, but it's primarily white. And I'm not putting this all on white people, but as the people
Hmm.
that I'm surrounded by, it's dumbfounding like how little they understand about what's going on out in the world and other cultures. That a lot of time it's just copy and paste what their parents or their friends or
Hmm.
whatever radio station or TV station they watch or listen to, and it's just they don't leave their comfort zone. And I had to learn that the hard way just because I stayed in the house and felt sorry for myself and cried and wanted to end my life and all these things. And now I look at a lot of things so much differently. I mean, even like I told you the other
Yeah.
day that I have this like 8 things that I want to try to get done in the next 4 years. And the reality is like if I can look like some of the things on there are like fall in love and get a new house, a new place to live, and a new
Hmm.
job, and get in shape and get rid of brain fog and whatever. There's two or three more,
Yeah.
and but it's like the reality is like if I stay in my apartment and do nothing about it, probably I mean other than maybe working out, I don't think maybe the brain fog. There's nothing else really going to change. But like if let's say if
Exactly.
I pursue a new job, I could technically find the girl of my dreams there. It's possible.
Hmm.
I could make enough money to get myself a new place. Happier, being happier could also lower stress, which could also help with the brain
Yes.
fog.
Yes.
I could be in the right job that also I could meet somebody who comes in that day or whatever, someone I meet who can also help me take my advocacy to the next level because that's on there.
Yes.
And just all those things could kind of happen. And again, obviously, like or just an easier example is just the podcast alone. Like you and I talked about, it's like I would have
Hmm.
never obviously met you. Would have never met a lot of these amazing people. Would have never gone back to talk to the kids at my former school with all the blind and visually impaired kids. I wouldn't have a chapter in a book. I wouldn't. There's a lot of motivational
Right.
speakings I've done. None of that would have happened if I didn't start the podcast. And that was out of my comfort zone because I was trying to tell myself no because no one's going to
Oh,
listen, no
I'm
one's going to
sure so.
care. You're a nobody. No one ever cared. Why would you do this? So that's the thing. If there's anything, again, it's scary as hell. No matter what you do, that's different. It's so scary.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, even trivial things seem scary because I didn't want to leave the house for so long. So even the idea of doing like mobility training, like going places and taking the bus, and there's still there's like a partial jitter when I go to these places because I'm just,
Oh, sure.
because I just went through so much trauma and like derailment when it comes to people and how like belittled and other things I had to go through, that
Yeah.
there's still this weird anxiety that's kind of over me, just being around strange people that I don't know. But yeah, the key of it all is just you have to try to come out your comfort zone. And obviously, sometimes no one can really fully just go, okay, I'm leaving my house and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and doing that. No, start little, but
No.
you got to
Start
try.
little. That's so true. And baby steps, I always say consistent baby steps. And one thing I wanted to say about what you were just talking about, TJ, if you have not started your podcast, just think of other people need to hear your message because your message, your story is going to inspire somebody else. And because I know I have heard so many inspiring stories of just talking to people. And I mean, and your story is very, very inspiring because you had the choice of either just sitting at home and feeling sorry for yourself and being bitter and angry at the world because this was the hand you were dealt, but you chose to do something about it. You chose to step out of your comfort zone and start a podcast. And that one choice that you made is changing other people's lives without you really knowing how much of an impact, probably, and
Sure, yeah.
but knowing that that one person on, out there listening to your podcast, who just probably randomly came across it, is like, wow, his story inspires me to do something.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is so exciting when we share our stories and hear other stories because yeah, doing podcasts, this is new to me, very intimidating for me to share my story because I tell everybody I'm just an ordinary person who's gone through extraordinary things, and I can tell you if I can go through it, you can too, and that's why I want to help people. Um, Learn these three steps that help me overcome my hardship, and and help them, and because nobody needs to go through really tragic um, experiences to learn how to do something like this. And I don't want anybody to have to start their life completely over,
Sure.
this late in life. But if I can do it, someone else can. If somebody told me I was going to go through this, I'd say there's no way. I'd never survive anything like that.
Yeah.
And but that's just because of other people's stories that have inspired me not to give up and to keep going.
Yeah.
And I think um, when we go through challenges and we overcome, um, you know, I can't imagine going through what you went through. I mean, at such a young age, and it's like, what are the odds of that happening? But it did. But there was a reason why that happened, and it's like you have to find your purpose in life because it's there's a reason with your impaired eyesight that's going to, and like they say, your story of hardship is somebody else's survival guide, and I truly believe that. you know
Yeah.
and so I'm thankful you're doing the podcast because I know you've touched my life with how you've overcome your circumstances. So I know you're touching so many people's lives too with this podcast, and there's a bigger story. You're part of a bigger story, and I think that's so
Yeah,
exciting
I
and
appreciate that.
inspirational.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. Yeah, I mean, again, and also it's just good to like as we talked about it also before. Is like I don't think we should compare like what we've been through, but at the same time, you can also wake up and go, well, at least I'm not dealing with like you can appreciate the fact that your eyes are okay, or whatever. And even if your eyes aren't the
Yeah,
greatest, you can
well,
appreciate they're not as good bad as mine.
right.
Yeah,
And it just shows too that, I mean, everybody is going through something. Everybody, I mean, and if you haven't gone through a major change in your life, you might, but we're you can't go through life unscathed. I mean, it's just impossible.
yeah, for sure.
Unless you live in a bubble. And it may not be to this degree of what either of us have experienced, but um, but we can share our story to encourage others.
Yeah.
And to me, that can make it all worthwhile. You know.
Well, and just being around other people that are strong. It's like I know a lot of times I can some people in my circle kind of perceive me to be the strong one, even though I don't know even know if that's true, even though I am strong. But I know a lot of people around me that disabilities that are I would find at least equally as strong. I'm just more vocal about what I go through, and I'm more honest and open about it. But it's just like having certain people, like just meeting you and all the people I've met throughout my life, and especially this podcast journey. One, I'm I'm more grateful for the things that I do have, and not I'm less
Hmm.
focusing on my vision or whatever else that I don't have. But at the same time, like I keep saying like a lot of this really is like a video game. Like I'm not just the fact that I had said to you before about doors being locked and trying to find a key, but also just like I
Hmm.
would continue to kind of unlock levels in my life just with a life experience. There's just certain things my eyes kind of metaphorically open up towards certain ventures and things that I'm like, oh, I just didn't have that experience. Like if I didn't grow up in a Spanish culture, my sister being half Puerto
Hmm.
Rican, I don't know, would I have been racist? I don't know. It's hard to tell. But like I grew up around a
Right.
Spanish culture, so it made me understand what it's like to experience some people who are different and sort of look different. And so then when I actually was
Hmm.
presented with the concept of racism, I'm like, well, this is stupid. Like, why would I hate this
Hmm.
person because they're a little darker and they speak another language? That's actually kind of cool that they speak another language. Why does it? That's stupid.
Right.
And so and you just be I unlocked that. Now I unlocked it on an early level, where most people don't. Some people have to go through certain experiences later in life and realize how dumb it is. But I got to learn it very early on. And there's just things now, like I said, the podcast opened up a lot of different ventures and a lot of things for me. I'd have never been in a book or, like I said, I would have never met all these people
Yeah.
because I was a very quiet person. I never cared about being a leader. I just wanted to be left alone because I felt like anything I said was stupid, because I got picked on a lot. And so it was
Oh.
like, okay, why would I ever speak up? And then it took for me to kind of be compared on my previous job to be compared to everyone else who was visually impaired and blind kind of as the same person, regardless if I was
Hmm.
busting my ass sweating and bleeding and they were sleeping. It was like, no, you're the same person. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm
Hmm.
slowly finding out who I am in life, and you're not going to take this from me. So then it just all of a sudden this kind of rush of passion and leadership was like, well, we're not doing this. I'm not taking that. I'm a different person than I used to be. I may not want to
Right.
vocalize it as much as I want. I might not want to vocalize it because I'm not a motivational speaker, at least not at that time. But my stubbornness and my will to
Yeah.
still want to be myself, or at least be known for something different and be known to like, be separate from everyone else, kicked in much
Hmm.
more than it would have if it just would have just allowed them to just push me down and so the leadership came from that, but I had to go through a lot to even unlock that. Of course, I wish I didn't have to go through that to unlock it, but I did. So, however, unique or unorthodox method I came to, achieve this unlockable whatever character or characteristic. I did it, and like I said, life is just funny like that. Sometimes you just achieve things that you didn't you weren't headed this direction, but it was there
Yes.
anyway. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, honestly, it's a lot like that stupid game that everyone plays at Pokemon Go, where it's like, oh, if I go to this place, you can catch this, and it's like, yeah, I go to the grocery store, and you know what? You could technically go to the grocery store, and you could find the girl of your dreams. You're not looking
Yeah.
for it, but
Yeah.
it's like, oh my god, that girl, that guy is beautiful. I'm gonna go talk to them, and you
Yeah.
weren't, or you go to the grocery store or you go to the doctors, and they may you might have, like for me, I've gone to the eye doctor I don't know how many times, and finally said, you know what, there's this doctor in Kentucky, go there, and he could possibly save your vision. It's like, well, I've been dealing with this
Wow.
for 30 years. Why am I not hearing this? Like, why am I now just hearing this? It's like you
Yeah.
don't really know what you're going to get out of life, and a lot of times you expect to just go there and things happen just like the regular, typical, ordinary day of, oh, okay, I've been to the doctors many times. Yeah, okay, I've seen many specialists, but doesn't mean they're, and I kind of gave up on the idea of anything changing, and then this one person's just like, well, you can go here. It's like, oh, and it's just that, like, life is funny like that.
It is. That's characteristics of overcomers or survivors, whatever you want to call it. That's that serendipity that
Yeah.
if you don't get out and experience life and go to places and people and all this stuff, it's like it's the timing to me. It's I mean, like my faith would say, the timing, God was working everything together for that time, and for that time and place for you to get this information, because maybe the process wasn't as developed as it is now, where it could help you, and that's kind of how I look at it, because when unusual things happen, I think there's a reason for that happening at that time and place, because like people, like we talked about earlier, people will come and go out of your life, and maybe you stop at a store, or you stop someplace just last minute, and you happen to run into somebody and that happened to be there also, stopped in at the just off on an off chance. That's there's a when things like that happen in my life, I go, there's a reason why this happened. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but there's something's going to come out of it because it's so unusual.
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, and it can even come down to even something you're watching. It's like,
Yeah.
there's were shows that I put off for years. Like, I don't feel like watching this, and then I watch it. I'm like, well, why didn't I watch this? And then I realized, like, I think I just needed to watch this. This is something that I kind of needed to hear or needed to see. Same thing. There's certain foods you like, or you like now that you didn't like before. It's like, I don't know. It's not even, it's kind of like the
Yeah.
equivalent to like maturity. Like, there's just some
Yeah.
things that you just all of a sudden you're willing to accept, and you like all of a sudden, and you're willing to experience it and try it, because when you're young, you're dumb. You just do things for whatever
Hmm.
ridiculous reasons, and then later in life you go like, wow, like that was kind of idiotic, but okay. And then you realize how many things, like, like, okay, look at Christmas, for instance. Like, all we want is the latest toys and video games and whatever. And the older you get, you're
Hmm.
like, no, I could really go for a
Yeah.
good pair of socks. Not kidding. I would like some socks. If you gave me socks as a kid, I hope it was a joke, or at least putting in my stocking. Don't put it in the gifts, because I don't want them.
That is so funny.
I would rather walk around barefoot for the rest of my life, like the Flintstones. I don't want socks in my Christmas pile of gifts. So, but when you get older, you're like, no, like, I really would like some socks. I could use them. Like, I'm getting holes in mine, and I need new ones. Like, I couldn't. Like, I'm very excited for a new T-shirt or whatever. Like, it just, or something, whatever, exercise equipment, or some things that you never, the concept of having for a gift. It's
I
like, oh my god, you
know.
just wasted your money because I don't want this. I'm throwing this away,
Yes.
or I'm regifting it. I don't want this. Like, no, you know what I wanted. I wanted the new PlayStation, and you gave me
Mm.
this, and it's like, no. It's so, yeah. It's just like how things evolve, and like I said, we
I
all,
think that's wisdom.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's wisdom from experiencing life. You learn what's important to you. You know, the older you get. You know,
yeah. Some people grow up
and
faster, but most of
yeah,
us just, you have to go, and some of us for sure have to go through a hell of a lot to kind of realize what it is. Well, not only what our purpose is,
sure.
but what the hell. Like you just think you're on this wacky journey of, like it's very easy to get pessimistic in my position where it's like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
life. So my life is just gonna suck. I'm never gonna smile. I'm never gonna be happy. I'm never gonna be in love.
Mm,
I'm never like. It's easy to really come to that realization. Like, oh, okay,
yes.
this is just my normal. Just never being happy and crying and angry. And then you
Mm,
realize like, okay, there's ways to dealing with this. It's just you're not
yes.
looking at it from the right view yet. And here, go through this, go through that. Oh, here's this, and then like I said, the podcast again. That was not an intended thing to go on for 3.5 years. I just said I wanted to
Yeah.
try to get
Oh
my voice
yeah.
out there and talk, but I never expected to do 3.5 years. And then all of a sudden, then it becomes a technique I'm using for my exercises. It's like, oh, so now I will do this every day or mostly every day. And I
Mhm.
stick with it. And all of
Mhm.
a sudden, it's kind of like how I said with you with the podcast. It's like, okay, even if you were nervous, it's like after a while, it kind of becomes so comfortable, you forget that we're not just having a phone conversation, like it's been recorded, but almost an hour is already
Right.
going by with this, and it feels like 5 minutes ago we were just like deciding, when we were going to start. So it just
I
happens.
know.
Life is just weird. It's a journey you just kind of have to accept, and you have to just let it kind of do its thing.
Exactly. You have to find a way to enjoy life because just like you said, by focusing on ourselves when we're going through hard times, it's so easy to become negative and pessimistic. But when you turn that around to helping someone else, or like I tell people too, if you're going through bad times, look at your situation and how can it help others, and try to help somebody with what you're going through. And because when we take the focus off ourselves and point it to others, we realize things aren't as bad as we thought they were. But if you can help somebody else, you find joy in helping somebody. It's just natural. And like from what I hear, when you decided to do the podcast, that started changing your outlook because it you wanted to get your voice out there, and so you were thinking of others too by starting your podcast
Yeah.
and not focusing so much on you know like I talk about, not focusing on what you don't have, but what you can give to others. And I think that's truly a blessing we have, that because of because of the hardships you face, you can help others in the same or similar situations to not give up and to keep going because you're part of something bigger.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, and you don't know that. You just start these things and you just play around. And like I said, when I first started, I didn't have all these microphones and podcast board and all that. I just recorded out of the bottom of my phone. I just put in
Hmm.
voice memos. And then there was one interview I did where I literally like recorded it by putting my phone on voicemail, and I used the voice memos app on my iPad, and I just put the speakers next to each other. It was the most like it
Oh
was the
wow!
most janky thing ever, but I still did
But
it.
it worked.
It worked good enough, but it's nowhere near now where I spent $600 on a podcast board and God knows how much on a microphone and all that. But I put time and effort because I started to care more.
Yeah,
Um, but I,
yeah,
but I wanted to give up
that's wonderful.
throughout the journey. But
Hmm.
I kept
But you didn't.
someone would reach out to
Hmm.
me and say you help me, or just I just started growing more of a passion for it and just having good interviews and meeting people who just brought new things to the table, and their new subject matter. Like I never thought about talking to people who lost their kids. Obviously, you also have things, health
Hmm.
reasons, but I never thought about talking to people who had addiction issues or who were homeless or any of that because I
Yeah.
never thought it was something I cared about. until more late. Not only because I've interviewed them, but also I have a disdain for how we treat people who are homeless, and
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah, and it's just the more and like there's just little things in my life because I always was asked like because I always seem to have had this lost mentality in a way where like just because I don't really know exactly what I want to do, and everyone say, "What do you want to do?" And I go, "I just want to help people." But I don't really know
Yeah.
how. I just want to help people. Obviously, the podcast is one version of it, but
Yeah.
I get joy in even just some old lady in a scooter at the grocery store needing
Mm-hmm.
someone to grab the box of cereal at the top shelf. I'm like, okay, because for a long time I never felt like anyone would ever rely on me. But it's like, oh, yay, and it's like, okay, sure, or whatever. Someone just needs some help one way or another. They need someone to help fill in the gap of some information that they're lacking. Here you go. I heard you talking about this. Boom. Oh, thank you. Because it's nice to just have good conversations and good interactions with people, even if they're strangers, especially strangers a lot of times. Because it's like, oh,
Yeah.
yay, there are good people out here, and you can laugh and smile. It's not all just grins and you know
Yeah. Isn't
frowns.
that true? I know that is so true. You know, I've had that too before. And I remember at the grocery store, it was close to Christmas or New Year's, can't remember now, but during the holidays, and this lady in, you know, the little scooter with the basket on, you know, around the handlebars, came down the aisle, and she said, "Honey, can you hand me that gallon jug of eggnog?" And I said, "Certainly." And she said, "My husband and I used to throw uh, big Christmas parties um, all the time, and it was always the social event of the season." And she said he died a couple of years ago, but I still keep doing the Christmas parties, and if I don't care if nobody comes, I'm still going to have a great party. And then she just turned around and just sped off, and I'm like, wow, that's the kind of attitude I want to have. I want to enjoy life, you know, and I remember what an impact she had on me. And we're talking about, I don't know, 30, 40 second, you know, no more than a minute conversation with a stranger. And I thought, I want to have that kind of zest for life.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me.
And there are some people that just have this like aura about them, their energy, and you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
hi, and you're like, hello, and they're just, but it's not like because there are some people that it's phony because that's their profession. They're getting paid to be overly
Right.
nice. But there are some people you just like, you
Right.
just something about them. You're like, man, I don't know what it is, but I just like being like in your vicinity. Like I like being right
Yeah.
here because you're just entertaining and or just something about your energy just keeps me wanting to continue to talk to you, even though I know I probably have 15 seconds with you. I'm just happy
Yeah.
we had this little talk, this little conversation. Yeah, and that's something I've tried to work on because I don't know what kind of energy I give off, especially in person. But I've always tried to just be cognizant of being, giving off the kind of good wavelength, good energy, because I know for a long time when I was in my mental health, like really bad days,
Mm-hmm.
people probably just thought I was just a suicidal madman. Which they probably had every right to feel that way because I was in a bad way. But okay,
Yeah.
there's something that mentioned that I told you I wanted to talk to you about on here.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the whole language police and everything, and about like especially the term suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you say it, and there's nothing wrong with
Right.
that. But like, I don't know, what's your take on all that kind of? Because to me, it kind of lowers and like minimizes what actually the experience is and what actually happened to anybody who goes through suicide or sexual assault or any of these type of horrific events. But like, I don't know, what's your take on the whole thing?
Well, that's a good question. Um, I don't shy away from telling people my son died by suicide. Um, but I don't like to make other people feel uncomfortable.
Right, right.
And so it would, so when people would say, how many do you have any kids? And I'd say, yes. How many? And it would, depending on how long I was going to talk to this person, I would say two, but one died, and if they ask me, I mean, like I'll if you ask me a question, I'll tell you. I won't be just like really frank, but
Right. You don't want to be the
I
party
know people are
pooper.
curious. Yeah, I know people are curious, and I'll just tell them. Um, and and then some people won't ask, and that's fine too. Um, but because I don't have a problem talking about it, but I know it makes people uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and they don't know what to say to that because I've been in that boat too. And so if they find out he died by suicide, they're always like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and I let them know it's okay. I've dealt with it, and I choose to remember the good times, and because we had lots of good times,
Sure.
and that kind of helps them um, process it takes the awkwardness out of it, you know. But it's I think sometimes I'm kind of I might be more the exception than the rule. I know there's parents who have lost their child, like died in a car accident, or something, they've lost them in some manner, cancer or something. And I feel like, I feel like they haven't processed all their emotions through it because they're still suffering for the loss. And you can't put a timetable on grief. And I like to tell people that because you just have to get to that acceptance stage. You don't even have to go through all the grief stages, but you have to get to that acceptance stage that it happened. Again, you don't have to like it, you don't have to agree with it, but you have to acknowledge that it happened and how are you going to move on. And again, adversity can make you bitter or better. And, I don't have control over what other people think, but I have control over what I can think, say, and do. And so I choose to present his life in a positive way. That was something that happened, but him committing suicide does not define him,
Right.
and because he was a joyful child. He had some issues that he was dealing with that I don't know what all they were, but I'm going to assume, because I really don't like to assume, but I'm going to say it was just adjusting to adult life. And because growing up, he had I won't, he had signs of OCD. So he would wake up in the morning and think, this is what we're going to do today. And if it changed, he would have a hard time adjusting.
Sure.
And so we learned how to deal with that. And he got really good with um, not being so rigid in what his expectations were. And once he learned to do that, he really adjusted well to life. And a lot of that was from the being living in an orphanage from the time he was 3 years old to the time we adopted him at 10. So 7 years in an orphanage, there was a lot of social development, delayed development, but overall he was, he enjoyed life. We had a good family life. And so um, that one situation is not going to be what defines his life to me, you know.
Yeah.
I
No.
don't know if that answered your question, but
No, I completely understand.
for people to understand how to go through, that's how I choose to go through it, and as but that's because, like I said, I dealt with all those emotions. And you can't look at it like I coulda, shoulda, woulda. If only I had done this, because nothing you say or do is going to bring your child back to life, and So you have to choose how are you going to handle things going forward,
Sure.
and I choose to look at it in a positive light.
No, as you should. I don't
Hmm.
have a problem with necessarily like however a victim or someone who's affected by a situation, however they handle, however they want to talk about it. That's obviously up to them. And obviously, you want to kind of be
Right,
aware of how you can offend someone who's really going through something. Because sometimes we may feel a certain way, feel a certain passion and anger towards something, and then you actually end up hurting someone you're not intended to just because you're angry at the bigger cause. But to
right,
me, the problem that I have a problem with, not, and again, however you deal with it, and however parents and so on deal with similar situations, that's fine. It's how things are talked about in the mainstream or in social media, where it's just like the word suicide or the word like sexual assault end up just being like they're curse words, like they're words we can't talk about, but then all that does is just mitigate the actual issues because now I have to say unaliving or SA or all these little cutesy little acronyms and terms that really kind of downplay really what is happening, especially like when in sexual assault. They don't even want anything to deal with assault or sexual or like I mean even like they're even starting to try to go away from like depression and a lot of these
yeah,
things. And it's like, no,
but,
you can't do that because too many people suffer from these things. Like I had a girl on who her son is doing prison time because he's autistic. Actually, I don't
mm,
know exactly, but I know what she told me, he suffers from mentally retardation. Obviously, the word retard in today's society is like, banned. Like you can't say
right,
it. But even though mentally retardation is it is a proper medical term for what he is suffering from. That's what the doctor told her. And
right,
so she still says it. And when I said that to some people, they're like, "Oh my God, I don't think she's not a good mother." I'm like, "No, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, it's
right.
words. Like, but anyway, like I said, I just for me, it just bugs me that we try to take away certain things from like you're trying to take the oomph and the real feeling and the disdain that
Yeah,
we have for some of these things because like I said, suicide is a real thing. People are doing it. Someone's doing it right now, unfortunately,
it
and
is.
someone's being sexually assaulted right now. Kid, woman, man, it doesn't matter, and it continues to happen. And if we just keep kind of taking some letters off the word or we keep giving it a cutesy little sound so it's like more tolerable to swallow,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it takes away, like I said, it takes that impact away from like what is really happening. Because like
It.
yeah, like rape is another one. Like no one wants to hear the word rape, but rape is such a good word because when you hear it, it hits you in your
Yeah.
soul. Like
It.
oof,
It.
God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I
But see, if society desensitizes it by calling it something more generic, it 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 it'll people won't be so offended by it, and it'll just be kind of become benign, normal, not a big thing. And I don't agree with that either. Uh, I don't like having to be careful sometimes of saying things to be politically correct. um, but nowadays, you just don't know how it's going to be taken. Nowadays people have cell phones. You say or do something out in public, you could end up being on misconstrued on the internet. An hour later, and it's. Um, I think we have to be authentic, and we have to be respectful and polite when we choose to not use those um, dumbed down versions, I guess, of the actual word. Um, Instead of saying suicide, saying killed himself, or
I don't even know if
you
that's
know,
applicable anymore.
I know. Well, that I don't know. I had somebody tell me, and she did it in a really nice way. But she said, "Well, I don't think they say committed suicide. I think they say died by suicide." And I was like, "Well, okay," because I don't know. I don't know how else to say that. I mean, he basically shot himself, and that can be pretty graphic to tell people, because it's like I don't want them to feel shock, or make it even more awkward, and sometimes, like I said, sometimes I'll just say he died, and I just leave it at that. So that could be anything, died from a health reason or car accident. I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Um, so it just depends. I find myself trying not to offend anybody, not politically being politically correct, but just not offending them, being meaning not making them feel awkward. So, like I said, it just depends on the circumstances. But I'm not ashamed that he did that
Sure.
at all. But it's like it's just it's like nowadays if I were to tell somebody I'm divorced, um, it's not a big deal anymore because you're so used to hearing that.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I don't even. I guess you could say I kind of do it too. I'll just tell people I'm single because being divorced means I was married to someone, and it's like I just don't care to acknowledge that anymore. A divorce cuts that marriage tie all together, so technically I am single. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. You imagine
and
Imagine you showing up to a party and it's like, "Hi, tell me about yourself." Well, I had breast cancer. My son killed himself. I'm divorced. It's like, Jesus, can you say something good about yourself? No, I'm getting there. I want to let you know that I'm still happy and I'm alive. But it's like, we can't get over the fact that you said your son killed himself and you're divorced and your breast cancer survived. Like, can you go back? Because I don't even care about that you said that you're happy. What about all these negative
I
things you
know.
said? It's like, no, they're not negative. They happen.
Well,
I'm alive. We're good.
that's why it's like I when people say, even I'm learning even on this podcast, well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, it's like, well, which story do I tell?
Yeah.
I've been through a lot of things, but yeah, I don't want to do the shock and awe. It's bad enough just talking about the heart transplant and the divorce at the same time.
Right.
Where people go, my gosh, but yeah, I can say I've been through a lot of stuff and a lot of tragedy, but I've overcome it, and I'm truly happy in my life now,
Good.
and I want other people to experience that joy.
Yeah, for sure. Before we kind of get out of here and you promote what you came to promote, obviously, besides yourself, why don't you like how's your health these days?
Oh, it's great. My health doctors, my heart doctors, are just so happy that I'm doing so great, and I've now I got to get my body in shape because I went for about 4 years with just trying to breathe was my goal for the day when my heart was giving out, and so I've got to get back in shape, and I've got to like I mentioned, my son got married this past summer, and they're expecting my first grandchild, and so I got to be able to get up and down off the ground. I can't do it right now because I'm used to sitting in front of a computer all day. But
Yeah.
it's great. I mean, I really am living the best life I could possibly live right now, and I just want other people to know what that feels like. And I don't have a lot of material stuff. I'll tell you that, but it's so easy to find joy in just the simple things of life. And I'm just thank you for asking me.
Yeah, of course. I have to, being a person who has up and down health issues. But yeah, it's always good to know someone out there cares. Obviously, not just me, but anyone. Just because it's you say all these things and you want to know that something good has come out of this beyond just your
Oh
mood. And
yeah.
because again, you said three or four things that are just awful in anyone's life. You go through one of them, it's awful. So it's good that you're, like I said, you're living a good life, and it's good to kind of talk about how again, there's not a lot of materials involved because that's I like to think I'm pretty low maintenance for the most part. I mean, I know I got a lot of shoes and some things I have, but in general, like I could have a little more if I tried to. But I like kind of where I'm at. That's why I just, when I go to find and, have a job interview Friday, like, whether I get it or not, like, I'm not sitting here asking for a crazy amount of money. Like, if eventually I would become rich for some reason, great. But I'm not like,
Yeah.
I'm not one of these people that's going to start wearing like really expensive things. Like, I'll wear some nice stuff, sure. Like, my shoes aren't cheap and things, but in general, like, my mom had a really rich boyfriend for a long time. This guy was a millionaire, and
Wow.
he's like one of the only guys in one of the only. There's like three ice cream cone companies in the country, and he's one of them. Like, he would sell to Mr. Softy and whatever else. Anyway,
Oh,
and he
wow.
would just be he was just this Italian guy. He would just carry like $25,000 in his pockets. It's like, Jesus,
God.
dude, what's wrong with you? One day he took me shopping for school for college, and he was just like, "Whatever you want, just let me know. Here's I got my card. We'll just buy." And people just, and they knew that, so they just kept throwing stuff at me. And for a second, it felt
Wow.
good, and then I just
Hmm.
started going, "No, put some of this back. I don't want this." Like, I did, I obliged to some degree. I took a couple pair of jeans, a couple shirts. I think I bought a hat or whatever. But like, I could have gotten so much more because I just didn't like that, and I always like envisioned myself, if I ever got famous or rich or anything, like, I would just wear the things I already wear,
Yeah.
maybe with a minor adjustment or so, but in general I would wear the same shit because I don't really want to change in that aspect. I mean, yeah, maybe wear a suit or something, like if you have to go on TV or whatever, but every so often you get a little
Oh,
get a
yeah.
little dapper and you indulge in that area. But no, I'm good. I don't care about stuff like that. I'm just trying to live the best life I can, and money's not like, I want to live comfortably, but comfortably
Yes.
not
Yes.
meaning like, oh man, I'm making six figures. Comfortably, like, I already kind of live comfortably. So
Right.
obviously now I need to find a new job to kind of help add to the income I have. But for the most part, especially for the last so many years, I've lived very comfortably, and I never cared too much about having more money. Do I feel like, was I worth more? Yeah, but I never cared because I felt like I was doing fine.
Well, and when you go through tough times, tough hardships, um, things that are important to you can change. You find out what you really appreciate in life and what's really valuable. And and I agree. Starting over, I did have to start from scratch because um, my husband and I had a business that I ran the day to day operations for almost 10 years. And, I lost that income. And so I said you really find out what's important to you. And I'll tell you in my old age, another piece of advice: the more stuff you have, the more it costs to maintain it. And I had someone say that to me when I was in my younger years, and it's like, no, the goal is to keep up with the Joneses. And then after a while, you start going, my gosh, that broke. Oh gosh, you got to go get that fixed.
Yeah,
Or and I realized, that's true. I just keep things simple, keep things low maintenance, and find joy in more important things. And relationships, I think is really important. And um, just um, helping others, I think that is a real important. It takes the focus off yourself, and helping others. Acts of kindness is a wonderful feeling to know that you helped somebody who wasn't expecting it.
yeah. Find what something's worth to you. Like, if like, I don't have I pay rent, everything's included in it, and I don't have to cut the grass outside. I don't have to shovel the snow. I don't mind it, but do I
Yeah.
want to do it, or do I would I want to pay somebody to do it? Like, it's just more money or more effort on my part.
Right.
So the fact that I don't have to do those things is great. Now, would I like to get a smaller house where I can have a nice little yard and do that? Yeah, but I don't, like, my
Hmm.
grandma has a very decent sized yard, and she's 91. She's finally given up. Like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I've been doing it. She was doing it this year. And she's like, you know what? I'm gonna hire somebody to come in and do it. And
Mowing
get
the yard or
yeah,
working
yeah,
in the yard.
yeah. She's been
Wow, that's probably why she's lived so
Oh
long.
yeah, she walks a mile a
Keep
day.
moving.
Like she's not your typical 91-year-old. She's probably healthier than you.
That
Uh,
that's
Like she's
awesome.
healthier than most people I know. It's ridiculous. Um, so yeah, and like I said, she has certain things where I look at like, man, like let's just say if I were to take her house, I'm like, I'm looking at all the expenses and all the things I would have to do, and I'm like,
Yeah,
is it worth it? Now, right now, to me, it isn't, but I think at some point it will be.
yeah.
But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
so why don't you obviously promote what we promote all the things that you need to promote, so how people can find you and all the goodies.
Sure. The best place to find me and to contact me is on my website, and it's icope2hope.com, and that's spelled ICOPE, the number two, and then HOPE.com. I cope to hope. And I have some blogs. I write a weekly blog. And if you want to sign up for my newsletter, you can do that. And my book will be out in November, and I will be offering it for free on my website, and just sign a copy with just paying shipping and handling. And I'll have some. I've got something up on my website right now, and just about the book to find out more about the book, to sign up for my newsletter. But I also have a free resource, if your listeners are interested, and it's called Three Life Changing Hacks to Disrupt Thinking Traps and Reduce Stress. And it's on my website too. Just a free resource.
Okay.
And I'm on all the social media, but that's on my website too. So it's one-stop shopping
Yeah,
to contact me.
that's great. Yeah, and that's like when the first iPhone came out. It was like, oh my god, my iPod, my
Yeah.
my cell phone, all these things are into one thing. My camera, all this is like, this is exactly what I needed. Tired of carrying
Yes.
8 different
Yeah.
devices. Now I got one thing. So yeah, it's always
Hmm.
good to just kind of have like a all your information in one just nice little
Yeah.
package. Um,
Yeah.
well, don't hang up, but might as well just let's get off of this and you can say goodbye to everybody
Yeah.
and get out of here. But I do appreciate you for coming on, obviously.
Yeah. Thank you. Like I said, it's been a joy, and I enjoy talking to you. And if there's anything I can do to help anybody, just let me know.
Alrighty. Hooty hoo. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 187.